This is the new Mercedes-Benz E-Class. This is the plug-in hybrid version, and this just reminds me of Uber. Okay, just joking, or am I? No, seriously. When you talk about this car, you're talking class, you're talking luxury, you're talking refinement, you're talking a brilliant, comfortable driving experience and plenty of technology inside this thing. And they've updated it in some ways and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that in terms of the design, all the tech inside and outside as well, and also the driving experience. Let's get into it. This one here, the plug-in hybrid version, is probably the one that you're most going to be interested in. It's upwards of £75,000, so it's quite pricey, but yet it's understated. It's not ostentatious in the way that it looks. When you get inside of the car is when you start seeing all the display and the lighting and stuff like that. That makes you feel like actually I'm in a very expensive car. Looking at the front of the car is very subtle as well in some areas, until you start to look at the three pointed stars that's everywhere. You got the big Mercedes-Benz logo there. We got all this tiny little three pointed stars logo all around here as well. There's another one here just in case you forget that you're driving a Mercedes. It's just, that's the most over the top thing that they can do. But besides that, it's very, very minimalist in terms of the way that it looks. It's got all the ADAS system just there as well. But pretty much a very lovely looking car on the front. Over on the side, we have this 20-inch alloys that comes with this premium version. So you get this multi-spoke alloys with this black sort of finishing on it as well. It looks very good. This is the AMG multi-spoke alloys. And then we move further down to the side, we have this recessed door handles, which sits nice and flush to add to the drag coefficient. And it looks good in terms of the design as well, generally. And this is actually kind of low, so it's not that high in terms of the height. We'll leave numbers on the screen for that. And then over on this side, we have the charging port, which supports 11 kilowatt speed. Unfortunately, in the UK, this doesn't support fast charging, which is not great, but you can still pretty much charge it overnight, which is what most people who's going to be buying this are going to be doing. So the charge port is there. So there's no CCS here, so there's no option at all. You can't even spec it to have that here in the UK, unfortunately. But that's the side for recharging your battery that's in there. It's a 25.4 kilowatt hour battery that's also in here with a small motor in there as well to help with the hybrid side of things and electrification of the car itself. But that's pretty much it. Very minimalist. You got this nice line that goes just along here. Again, I love what they've done here. It's very clean, it's very executive, and just adds to that nice luxurious element and refined element of what this car is all about. Over on the back, we have the E300e badge because, again, plug-in hybrid version. You have plenty of engine options available, including diesel as well, if you want something that's a bit more powerful, for example, more powerful than this one in general. But what you notice as well is on the back, they've changed this lights here. So we have this three-pointed star on the brakes, on the tail lights as well on either sides. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think that's just a bit over the top, but it is what it is. That's just what they've done. You see over here as well, it looks very clean and tidy. I love what they've done with the diffuser on the back. The exhaust actually points down underneath here, but they've tidied it up with this like fake inlets on the back of the car, which I think looks really good. I don't mind it. Whilst I remember as well, before we talk about the boot space, if you prefer the old executive look in terms of the grille on the front of the car, you can actually buy the executive versions as well. That brings back that old classic grille on the front, if you like. But this just brings it in line with the electrification. So if you look at the EQE, for example, you see all that new grille on all the cars. So that kind of brings it in line with that. But anyway, back to the boot space. This is 370 litres of boot space. It's got a big opening as well to get things in there very easily. So if you're someone who's a company CEO or whatever and you're traveling, it's easy for you to get your luggage, chuck it in there and you're good to go. The boot space is not that much in this. It's reduced because it's got the battery placed just around there as well. So if you opt for the non-plug-in hybrid version, you get bigger, slightly bigger boot space. But again, when you compare this to like the BMW 5 Series or you compare it to the Audi, you're not getting as much boot space as those guys that you've got here. But it's pretty good. It goes all the way to the back and then you can still fold the seats as well. You have a 40-20-40 split for the seats on the back, so you can get more in there if you really need to. But I doubt people that will be buying this would need that much boot space anyway. Over in the back, it's very Mercedes in terms of the way that it feels so premium and luxurious here. I love the way they've layered the seats here. I love the stitching. I love the leather material. It just feels really nice. There's plenty of knee room here, plenty of space to put your feet as well. Headroom is no issues at all. Like, look at it. It's just plenty. You got sunroof here for the front and the back. It gives you a sense of space again at the back. You got Burmester sound system in here, which we'll talk about as well. It's 4D sound, which sounds absolutely fantastic in here as well. You have your Windows control here, which is, this design here looks suspended on the door itself because the way they've used the color contrast with the silver and the black area there. I love what they've done there. What I don't love is this piano black stuff here, which it just attracts a lot of fingerprints. So over time, it's just going to look very not so nice. So you have to keep wiping it and cleaning it. But again, if you're like someone who's a company CEO, you probably have your own driver. He's going to keep buffing this stuff and making sure that's clean all the time for you. Who knows? You have space here to store documents. Climate control stuff is here. 2 USB-C ports there as well to charge your devices. There's a massive transmission tunnel here, which means I don't think anyone's going to be sitting in the middle, but if you really need to, they just have to tuck their feet on either sides of the back there. But technically you can fit someone there, but they have to sit quite high up as well. We have the armrest here, which is nice. I love what they've done here. Again, it's nice and tidy because there's no cup holder thing here to get your elbows sinking in there. But what you can do is if you press this once, it gives you the opportunity to store your phone. So for example, you know, you got a business meeting or whatever it is, you can just tucking your phone in there whilst you're driving and, you know, doing some work, whatever it is, you can do that. And then when you're not doing this, press it one more time. You then have your cup holders there or bottle holder, and it's just nice and secure into place because of this springy stuff that keeps it nice and secure in place regardless of what size of the cup it is and stuff like that. I think overall here, it's really nice. Over in the front cabin, it's also very premium with loads of screens in front of us. That's 14.4 inch display there, and then two 12.9 inch display. So this is it's called super screen. So if you go for this particular specification, you get this super screen set up. Otherwise, I think they also do other versions. That means you get just a single slab of tablet here without the passenger screen or something. But anyway, this one gives you all you'll ever ask for. There's also a camera there as well. But in terms of material that they've used there, again, it's plenty of leather all around. I like the stitching again. I like the seat, the look. It just feels nice and comfortable. It's called the open pore seats, which also means you get heated seats as well, which is nice. And then you got this like actual wood here as well, which I think actually complements the rest of the cabin here as well. Sometimes I look at it and go, this is not going to age well, but actually it kind of works well with what they've got going on here. And in terms of controls and stuff here, you have plenty of buttons everywhere mixed with stuff that you can actually do on the screen. Before I go into the screen area, because honestly that's a whole lot of conversation to be had once you're sat in the car. Over here there's plenty of storage, so you push this button, opens it up, and then you have USB-C port there to charge your devices, but you can just close that again. One thing I noticed about this area though is sometimes when I'm leaning over to press stuff on the screen, as you can see that I'm doing it right now, my elbow just pushes that button and this opens up, which I didn't quite like. And then we have here, which you push this down and it opens up this whole space here. So you got two cup holders there, you got your key area or phone or whatever you want to store there, two USB-C ports, and then there's a wireless charging area here. I'm not sure if that's called or not or anything like that, but again, you have loads of branding here, 3-pointed star logo, tiny bit there, tiny little bit of detail just all around there, which is pretty cool. And I just close that again for now. To control the seats is quite different in this. It's not actually placed where most cars would actually have it, but in true Mercedes fashion, we have it here. So you have the shape of the seat here, so you can control things like the backrest and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. Over onto the screen. So when you get in the car, it will give you a welcome message and stuff like that, which I think is quite nice. It's a nice little touch to have in terms of personalization. This screen itself, at first, everything looks quite overwhelming, but what you quickly find out is once you get used to where things are and how it works, is very straightforward and very easy to use. You've got a couple of buttons here which have like some sort of haptic feedback, so you can change the driving dynamics here, so you can select from battery hold to electric, to hybrid, to sport, and individual mode as well. So you can see the engine kicked in then as soon as I went into the non-electric mode. So we'll put it back to electric just to get things to quiet down again in a second. And then once you look at these buttons here, you got volume control, power button there, you got your car button. So the car one will give you things like your head-up display settings and so on and so forth. We'll go through that when we point the camera to this side. But one thing I love in general is the fact that you have so much options here in terms of what you can do. The passenger has a screen here, which means they can also control different things on there with their own profile, and I love what they've done there. It just looks very premium and very techy. Over on the side, we have this optional 12.3 inch passenger display. Again, because we have this full whack press car, it's got everything. So that's why we've got this in here, which means they can have a look at some of the apps that's available. So for example, we have things like Apple Music, Spotify. They can control the music basically whilst you concentrate on your driving experience. That's pretty cool. And then here we have our 14.4 inch infotainment display. This is the MBUX, latest MBUX in terms of the infotainment. And Also, I think they might be moving later on to other operating system. But for now, we have this latest MBUX here. So what you have at the bottom here is your climate control and your home button and return, which will always be there for you to control things. Starting off with the map display is pretty cool in terms of what you can do, in terms of you can quickly just go to where to, or you can tap this car option as well. So you can share journey, you can do charging stations and charging. You can have all that included in your journey so you can plan accordingly, which is really good. We go back to home, press that one more time. And then we have our main menu here, which allows us to scroll across. It's very responsive, no issues there at all. And we have radio, media, routines, which you can create your own routines, or the car can actually start to learn about your user style and eventually start to create some routines for you, which is pretty cool using AI. And then we have applications here. We go to apps, you can download more as well when you go to Mercedes Me. And then here, Mercedes App Store. And then we can look across, we've got built-in Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal. When you have those signed in the system, you can actually experience Dolby Atmos in the car, which sounds absolutely out of this world. It's amazing. Then you got other things like camera, which is that camera we got up there, so you can take selfies, or you can also work as a dash cam as well. Look at your gallery, play Sudoku, if you want to do all that kind of stuff in the car. That's absolutely up to you. And then we go across, we see some of the extra app that I've downloaded. So we have things like TikTok here. This has 5G capability. So we have TikTok, YouTube, Angry Birds. What's pretty cool here, this is an executive car after all. We have Zoom and team meetings. So you can actually use that camera there to make video calls and take meetings in the car whenever you need to. What would have been cool is if there's a camera at the back, which means then maybe you can be sat to the back and actually do that at the back as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but that would have been cool instead of just sat in the driver's seat in position to do all that kind of stuff. This hybrid option here tells you all about your charging, energy flow, vehicle information, and engine, and so on and so forth. So you can see all these things like boost pressure, and this is a pretty cool gauge if you look at it. I quite like that. And then if we go back and go into our settings, we can change so many things here. So you have all our driver assistance systems, so like driving, so eco assist, collision avoidance. You got things like assistant, traffic sign, attention stuff. You got camera there, so you can open the camera cover on the back. And then you got your parking option there as well. This can park itself if you need it to. We get vehicle options, so you can look at your driving stuff and comfort. So this one here, I need to start the vehicle to actually use. So you got easy entry and exit feature, which means the steering can lift up when you need to get out. And once you're sat in your position, this will go back down. You can control your roof blind here. You can also use voice control as well to control a lot of things in the car. For example, you don't actually have to use a command option if it's just you in the car. It's always listening. So you can just say stuff like, open the window.
Understood. I'm opening the window.
There you go. And it just opens that window. You don't have to say, hey, Mercedes all the time to control things. It's always listening. But if you have people in the car, then it's different. You have to use that command, I believe, to actually operate it. Then you got your dynamic select option here as well. So if you go to individual, you see the stuff that you can edit. So you got drive, you can have in hybrid mode, steering, comfort, ESP in comfort mode as well. So you can change all this to suit your driving preference if you need to do so. You got hybrid option as well. So you can do route-based or standard. You can pause the screen to read that if you want to read it, but that's exactly what it does. And then we've got lighting, so you can change things like your digital lighting system, so you can change your farewell, welcome stuff. Interior lighting is cool, so you can do locator lighting. Also, you can change the lighting for the door handle to project the three-pointed star on the floor. You can do that as well. And then you got your ambient lighting, which means you can change the lighting in here. But what's also cool here is you've got energizing and comfort settings, so you can have it all to suit your mood. But back to ambient lighting though, you can change the brightness, but effects as well is cool. So when you play music, it can actually function with the sound that you're listening to in the car, which I think is a good little thing to add. Then you got your seating options. So you got seat kinetics, so massage and stuff like that. And then we have the option to position your seat automatically. So all you have to do is put your height and then it will start to position yourself. So you're sitting in the most, comfortable and optimal way to be sat in the car for when you're driving, for your driving position. So to reduce fatigue and all that kind of stuff. So pretty much everything there that you need to know. I mean, it's pretty cool. I like what they've done. System settings allow you to change things like your audio settings. So you can change your entertainment settings, so like 3D sound and all that stuff. Well, actually, we have 4D sound in here as well. And you can change the level of 4D sound, which means the seats actually vibrates along with the music that you're listening to. And Burmester sound system is one of the best you'll ever have in any car. Equalizer, change it if you know what you're doing. And you can have driving sound profiles as well. You have over-the-air updates as well if you want to update things. And then look, some apps there, which you can change the permissions and so on and so forth, info. So again, you just have everything you need here to operate the car. You can actually change this display as well, actually. I forgot to show you guys that. So if you go to settings, let's go to display. There we go. We can change this home screen. So you have 0 layer option, or you can have the classic menu bar option as well. So they give you all the options. One thing though is things aren't that easy to find on here. Some things are buried in strange places, like vehicle settings should have some stuff, but you'll find them on the system. So I don't know, it's just kind of placed in weird places. I like this graphics goodies, which is basically every time you come in the car, it might give you some sort of like graphical experience in the car, which is quite nice. So if you notice, when I do the voice command and I go, close the window.
Okay, I'm closing the window.
So this animation here is part of that goodie. You can turn it off if you don't like it, but I think it's quite cool. Nice little touch. It doesn't end there though, there's more. So if we scroll down here, drag that down, you get your notifications, press the car option here, you can quickly switch things up, things like your head-up display. There's also 3D driver display on the instrument cluster, which it's gonna be hard to show on camera, but you can press that and it adds just a bit of depth into what you see on the instrument cluster. That's pretty cool. I like what they've done there. You can also turn on the camera stuff here, so driver camera switched on, have a look at your data package and so on and so forth, voice commands and stuff like that. So you can do all that there if you wish to do so. Of course, this is not going to be a true Mercedes in terms of tech if we don't have that 360 camera as well. So you can look all around the car, see what's going on. You got your parking options, parking assistance is there as well. But you also have this 3D surround, so you can actually just tap, see where the car's positioned. You can have a look all around the car. Pretty cool. We also have digital vent control as well. So although you can move this like so, the system can actually move that for you as well. So for example, in the digital vent control, if I press this, you can see I can do that. Moves, upper body, that moves as well. So it's pretty cool. Over on this side, there's a bit to talk about as well. We have our head-up display, which you can modify all the settings on that. But let's start with the steering itself. I love this steering. I think it's just really nice to use. And then we look behind the steering. We have our gear shifter on the side. And then this one single stalk does everything, like your lighting, your indicator, as well as your wiper option as well. So window wiper options and stuff like that. So bear that in mind. That takes a bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty straightforward. You have a paddle shift behind it as well. And then on here, I love the way that they've laid it out. So this side options here allow you to control everything else on the screen. So if I press this, that's operating that side, nothing to do with this side. And then if you go back, we can scroll up and down as well using that, again, over on that side. But on this side is where you can control the instrument cluster in front of us. So we can press home. As you can see there, I can change how this view is. So I can have sports, classic, navigation, assistance, service. You get all that option there. If I scroll up, we can then change the options for our head-up display. Again, we can change it to minimal, sports, standard. We can also go into settings, which allows us to change the brightness and the way that it's, the height of the head-up display to go with your sitting position. And then we can turn it on or off completely if we wish to do so. And then return will take us back all the way. When it's not into the home settings, up and down, we literally scroll what's in the middle section on there. So you can see that we've got media, we've got consumption level, eco display, and so on and so forth. So you can use that middle area there to control different things as you wish to do so. Below that, we have our media control here, voice calls and stuff like that, volume option. And then this side, we've got option for all our active cruise control system, which is pretty cool. Overall here, I think it's very, very straightforward. It's really nice and neat. I love what they've done here. What I don't love, again, is all this piano sort of finishing here, piano black finishing, this glossy finishing, which means fingerprint galore. One thing as well is, I've been talking about how premium this car is, but if we look at behind here, there's this like plastic area here, and there's a bigger gap on here compared to the other side. So on the right side, the gap is much smaller, which is what I think it should look like. But on the left side, just above the engine start button there, you can see the gap is much bigger compared to the other side, which I'm not sure that's meant to be like that. So on the road with the E300e. So one of the things about this car is how comfortable it is to drive. So if you're going to be doing long drives, this is your car, basically. Look no further, because it's so comfortable, even without the adaptive air suspension like we don't get in the UK. It's still pretty much smooth. It's not too loud in terms of road noise, even with those 20-inch alloys. I think they've done really well in insulating the cabin to make sure it just sounds nice and comfortable and relaxing for the driver, or if you're going to be a passenger in this. Because I know a lot of people will be buying this as a company car, some people will be buying it to do chauffeur services. This just ticks all those boxes in terms of exactly what you need in those areas. We have 313 horsepower in here. We have 0 to 62 in 6.4 seconds, around 550 Newton meters of torque, so it's pretty decent. You do feel it. It's a big car. You're talking nearly 3 tons in terms of weight, because you're carrying all that battery load as well around with you. And if your fuel tank is full, you're carrying that extra weight along with you as well. You have a top speed of 147 miles per hour, but the main thing about this car is I don't think it's built for it to be sporty and stuff like that. That's not to say it can't hold its own when it comes to cornering and stuff, although it's not the most fun when you start to corner in this, because it's a heavy car. You feel it just sort of shift as you're doing all the cornering, especially when you start to increase speed at the same time as you're doing it. But this car is not all about that. This car is all about comfortable state, you know, just driving with this comfortable experience where it's just nice and smooth, it's effortless, it's refined. The steering is not too heavy, it's not too light. It's just perfect for you to even just use one hand like this and just sort of just tug to the direction that you want to go to. It just feels really comfortable. One of my issues here though is this super screen. As much as I love it in terms of the tech and the gadget, the way that it's slanted towards the front means you kind of sometimes have to lean forward to touch things on the car. So the reachability, if that's a word, is not the best in terms of being able to easily reach for things, especially when it gets higher up on the screen. What you do have though to counter that is the controls on the steering. So you can use the control on the left side of the steering to still be able to control things very quickly. But in situations where it's not very intuitive, you kind of still have to lean forward and do that, which then you might end up elbowing this compartment here, and then it opens by accident and stuff like that. Then it's a bit of a chaos in the moment. But other than that though, I think the driving experience is really good. It's one of the smoothest I've seen or experienced rather than seen in a car, which honestly gets a big both thumbs up from me for that. Elsewhere, visibility is great all around the car. I love what they've done with the head mirrors, was slightly tinted, so that way I think it is, or maybe the back window is tinted, whichever one. I think it's nice that they've done that, so when you get those bright lights in the head mirror, it's not going to affect you when you're driving on a road, especially on the motorway, for example. It's not going to blind you by accident. But yes, when you're cornering, like right now we're on the countryside and we're doing some little corners. They're not too tight at all, but it's still a bit of a bend to it. But surprisingly, with the heavy weight of the car, it still pretty much handles it very well. You might feel the weight sort of move as you're doing your left and right and stuff like that, but nonetheless, I think it's still pretty much comfortable. It's not as bad as I was anticipating that this would be when you start to corner in this heavyweight. Depending on the drive mode that you put it in, I think they've also done a really good job with the hybrid mode in terms of the battery or the motor talking to the ICE part of the car. I think they've done a fantastic job in that area, because you don't really feel the switch as such between those two systems, and I think that's a really good thing to get right, because otherwise what you don't want to do is put your foot down and all of a sudden when you're in hybrid mode you get this all of a sudden, because you have a 4-cylinder 16-valve inline engine here that possibly when you put your foot down you might get that aggressive sound that sounds like you're ragging the car when you're actually not ragging it at all. So that's something that I really love about the engine system. The gear shift as well is good. You have a nice speed 9-speed gearbox in here that responds very well. It's very smooth, it's buttery smooth. I love again what they've done in that area. Onto the brakes. The brakes are great as well, even though you have again nearly 3 tons of weight plus the passengers or whatever to stop, you know, and I think it does a good job at doing that. The brake can sort of obviously gives you different characteristics depending on which drive mode you have it in, for example. But regardless, the brakes do a really good job. One thing I did notice though is when you have in all electric mode, because this can actually do up to 70 miles quoted just in pure electric, which means for most people, you'll be able to do all your urban journeys. You'll be able to motorway speeds as well in all electric mode, which means if you want to go, say, from London to Birmingham, you can do majority of your journey in all electric mode only with no issues at all. But what I was going to say before I digressed onto that, because I had to remember that as well, was when you pull in all electric mode, you feel like the accelerator feels different because the travel is different in that area. But when you pull into like hybrid mode or sports mode, then you can feel the way that you can go all the way down, and you can kick down on this as well to make the battery, to make the engine kick in as well, the petrol engine kick in, which is good. But overall experience, I think it's spot on. It's really comfortable, nice and buttery smooth. It's just glides, especially in straight line speeds. It's really nice. I love this car actually. The only thing I don't love, even though it's in line with all the competitors, is the pricing of this. It's more than £76,000 for this actual package here, which has basically all singing and dancing specifications. It has everything you can think of in terms of the tech, the spec, and everything else, which obviously is in true Mercedes fashion. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any questions, drop them there as well. I'll do my best to answer. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.